Hello there. This is a world news on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. My name is Esther Wachiku and these are the top stories. Ondo PDP chairman suspended over anti-party activities. Rivers State Governor Fubara opens up on Speaker's resignation. Governor Fubara appoints ex-Speaker Ehiye as Chief of Staff. Federal government suspends evaluation and accreditation of degrees from Benin Republic, Togo. And Atiku's camp reacts after Benin Togo's certificate revocation. Details now. The world news begins with the Ondo State Chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Fatai Adams, being suspended by members of the State Working Committee of the party. The suspension was contained in a letter signed by 9 members of the committee and made available to journalists on Tuesday, January 2. The 9 members who signed the suspension letter accused him of anti-party activities. Those who signed the letter include the Deputy State Chairman, Tola Alabere, State Secretary, Olusheye Olujimi, State Organizing Secretary, Dare Akinwale, Vice Chairman South, James Fatokwe, and Vice Chairman Central, Honorable Dayo Awude. Others include Moses Awufade, Legal Advisor, Financial Secretary, Boluaji Bamidele, Treasurer, Mrs. Olubumi Fasunu, and the State Publicity Secretary, Kennedy Perete. While in Rivers, the state governor Similai Fubara has denied claims that his recent decisions in the state's political crisis were driven by fear, adding instead that they were solely motivated by a pursuit of peace for Rivers people. In a New Year's speech to the state delivered at the inaugural state banquet at Government House, Port Harcourt, Governor Fubara addressed the recent resignation of Edison Ehiye from the factional speakership of the State Assembly, describing it as an essential step towards lasting harmony. This move comes in the wake of a December 18th truce meeting brokered by President Bola Tinubu, where Fubara and his predecessor, former Governor Nyesom Wike, agreed to an 8-point resolution to quell the tension in the state. The resolution, signed by both factions along with key political figures, stipulated the immediate withdrawal of court cases related to the crisis. Among other terms, the resolution also directed Governor Fubara to resubmit the 2024 budget bill initially presented to a limited House of Assembly to the full legislative body. Fubara expressed, and quote, "Every decision that we have taken is not born out of fear, but because we have the interest of our people and we have respect for elders," end quote. He appealed for peace in the state with an intention to accelerate development and economic investment. Still in Rivers, Similai Fubara has appointed the immediate past Speaker of the State House of Assembly, Right Honorable Edison Ehiye, as his new Chief of Staff. Ehiye, who is a strong ally of Fubara, replaces the Chief of Staff, Honorable Chidi Amadi, who is a kinsman to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike. The immediate past Speaker had on Sunday night resigned his position as both Speaker and member representing Ahuada East Constituency 2 in the Rivers State House of Assembly, sparking questions about his political move. You do recall that the resolution signed by parties during the peace meeting held at the instance of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu included the recognition of Right Honorable Martins Amawule as Speaker of the House. However, there was no clause mandating Ehiye to vacate his seat as a member of the House. And still on the world news at 6, the federal government of Nigeria has taken a decision to suspend the evaluation and accreditation of degree certificates from Benin Republic and Togo. This development was announced in a statement today signed by the spokesperson for the Federal Ministry of Education, Augustina Obiloduru. She noted that the suspension is with immediate effect. The government, she's in the statement, lamented that some Nigerians deploy nefarious means and unconscionable methods to get a degree with the end objective of getting graduate job opportunities for which they are not qualified. The statement added that the suspension would remain in place pending the outcome of an investigation involving the Ministries of Foreign Affairs and Education of Nigeria and the two countries, as well as the Department of State Security Services and the National Youth Service Corps. Elsewhere, the camp of Atiku Abubakar, the People's Democratic Party presidential candidate in the 2023 election, has slammed the federal government's suspension of degree certificate evaluation and accreditation from Benin Republic and Togo, calling it a deceptive move that ignores a bigger problem. Reacting to the suspension announced today, Atiku spokesperson Abdul Rashid took to social media, accusing the government of hypocrisy and selective action. He stated, and quote, "Universities in Benin and Togo are not the only ones culpable in certificate racketeering." Rashid wrote, "Suspending their accreditation is nothing but deception. This isn't the first time the federal government is doing that." He pointed to Chicago State University and its affiliates as a prime example of institutions allegedly involved in nefarious means and unconscionable methods of issuing degrees. Rashid's reaction stems from Atiku's long-standing legal battle against President Bola Tinubu, who emerged victorious in the 2023 election. Atiku had challenged Tinubu's eligibility based on alleged discrepancies in his educational credentials, specifically questioning documents from CSU. In 2023, Atiku's lawyers claimed the documents showed Tinubu attending Government College Lagos in 1970, 2 years before the school's official establishment. These, they argued, rendered him ineligible to contest the presidency. However, the Supreme Court refused to admit the alleged evidence brought by Atiku. The Apex Court upheld the decision of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal by upholding Tinubu's election. Now, joining me on the telephone to discuss these matters and other prominent issues in the world news at 6 this evening, January 2nd, 2024, I have via the telephone a legal practitioner, a political and social affairs commentator, and that is Barrister Eze Eluche. Barrister Eze Eluche, Happy New Year to you and welcome to the world news at 6 on VOP 90.3 FM.
Well, good evening and thank you for having me on your studios. Happy New Year to your listeners also.
Happy New Year to you, Barrister. This is you gracing us this year with your analysis and giving us a breakdown of your perception on what we're going to be discussing today. Barrister Eze Eluche, let's start off with the federal government taking a decisive action to suspend the accreditation and evaluation of degree certificates from Benin Republic and Togo. Now, the PDP section, or the PDP, the opposition party, specifically that from Atiku Abubakar, have stated that the federal government's reaction to these diplomas or certificates awarded by institutions in these countries, Benin Republic and Togo, is deceptive. They said a lot of Nigerians, and they also included the president, have also gotten awards, degrees and certifications through nefarious and deceptive means from CSU. So if they are banning Benin Republic and Togo, why did they not ban CSU? Would you say their comment is stemming from the quagmire with the president and, the alleged certificate forgery situation with CSU? And do you think the government is being deceptive by taking a proactive measure based on some investigations and an undercover investigation that was carried out by a particular Nigerian reporter who backed Koto University degree in 6 weeks?
Well, the reality is this. What moral justification
Barrister, are you on the road, please?
The Tinubu administration has
Oh, okay.
to talk about certificate regulations or certificates being forged or genuine or incompetent?
All right.
This was what some of us talked about from the very onset. That certain of these issues which were raised regarding the qualification of Mr. Tinubu for presidency will turn around and haunt his regime. We are talking of a president who presented forged documents to INEC to contest the election. A president who swore that he attended a school. He swore on oath that he attended a school that was non-existent at the time he attended it, or he purported to have attended it. So these are the issues that will now be looked upon. A president who, even his stay in Ijeoma State University, is shrouded in mystery by virtue of the fact that he was technically not qualified to even graduate from that institution. Having accumulated receipts, which was having accumulated credit issues, which did not clear before being said to have graduated. So the question that will haunt this regime is, what is the moral authority? And moral authority is very, very germane, because apart from having the authority of force, what we call the jury in government, in law, Yes, you can claim to be in fault. Do you have the authority, the moral authority that can be persuasive, that is even much more powerful than the legal authority? This regime does not have it to talk about any institution. And unfortunately, it is this same Mr. Tinubu who has this opaque academic qualifications that is the visitor of all federal universities in Nigeria. He is the man that is charged. He can declare any degree results gotten from any Nigerian university invalid. So when you have such a character whose qualifications itself is very much in doubt, shrouded in fraud, now having his government to begin to declare that schools in Benin Republic or wheresoever their certificates will be disqualified, it questions the whole essence of government. And I just pity those who are being witch hunted, because I'll call it a witch hunt, because you have to, even the Holy Book says you have to remove the clog in your eyes before trying to remove the clog in your neighbor's eyes. As Mr. Tinubu's government removed the log in the qualifications of Mr. President himself before beginning to look at people that went to Benin Republic and Togo. It is clear that when people see the president himself is tainted, that his certificates are not verifiable, or that even when you try to verify they are mostly fraudulent, there will be that tendency to be like your leader. And it's unfortunate that we are going to go through this for the entire period that a character like Bola Tinubu is the president of Nigeria. This is just the beginning. There will be several more of these instances, whether in the areas of forgery, of certificates, or even perjury, lying on oath. Such instance will come up, and then the issue of the moral authority of this regime will always crop up, and that will be to the detriment of not just the person of the president, but also the people of Nigeria. Because I believe that even in Togo and Benin,
yes,
they will be mocking the president for daring to look into the qualifications of Benin University or Togo University, because they'll say even the man who is giving this authority, giving this order to stop degrees from Benin and Togo, what are his qualifications?
All right. So apparently there was an investigation carried out by a reporter who went undercover, and this reporter got a certification from Benin Republic, in 6 weeks. And when that report came out, he actually said that a lot of Nigerians have been acquiring their certification through this means in order for them to get job opportunities, specifically some elite job opportunities outside the country or top jobs opportunities in this country. And it also isolates those who attend our own local, or will I say our own indigenous institutions for 5 years. So you have attended an institution in Nigeria for 5 years or 4 years, and somebody who went to the University of Togo or Benin Republic goes there for possibly 2 or 3 months, comes back with a degree that you need to work for 5 years or 4 years, and then you're given a job plus having to go through your NYC. Now, would you say the federal government, through this expose, taking this initiative to actually disqualify certifications from such institutions, would you call it a wrong move? Wouldn't you consider the federal government being proactive, despite the fact that the president was also involved in acquiring his own credentials through that means?
Now, what the Ministry of Education and the federal government is doing in this instance is the right things they should do.
Okay.
But then, one would have expected that what the government should do is to particularize on universities and not a blanket ban on schools from Benin and Togo.
Okay.
Because they are also, I know, for instance, that in Benin Republic you have the National University de Calavi, which is a major university in Benin Republic, and then you can hardly, it can be compared with any school in Nigeria. And also in Togo they must have some institutions which also have integrity.
Okay.
So what I'm against is the blanket ban on all universities in Benin and Togo.
Right.
What the government should have done was to conduct proper investigations, then blacklist those institutions which have become like a degree mills that just roll out or print out certificates based on amount paid. The issue of what Mr. Tinubu did in Chicago is a different one. So I just mentioned that because we have to keep on refreshing our minds of why we are where we are.
Yes.
You do not blame those who want to copy their leader. The Supreme Court avoided that, and they should have helped Nigeria to right wrong. But now we are stuck with this mess. We should not throw away the baby with the bathwater. What the ministries and the of education and the federal government did with regard to schools is right, but it should not be a blanket ban on all the schools in those two countries.
All right, let's look at the situation in Rivers State. We haven't stopped getting updates in the political quagmire in Rivers, and that's concerning Fubara and his former speaker Edison Ehie. Apparently, on Sunday evening, Edison Ehie resigned from being the speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly, and that was part of the resolution that Fubara signed on with the president in Abuja along with Wike. And now the speaker of the house is one who is loyal to Nyesom Wike. Well, during a Christmas broadcast, or rather during a Christmas message when Fubara was speaking with his people, he mocked that what they're after is his red biro. I don't know if you remember, then there were speculations that Fubara did not consensually sign. He did not in due consent sign the resolution, because he always signs legal documents or approves certified documents with a red biro. Rather, he used a black pen. So he made a jest by saying that what they're after is his red biro. And now he said the reason why he signed that resolution was for the sake of peace and for the development of the state. But with current realities on ground and Fubara's disposition afterwards, do you think genuinely it's for peace, or possibly there are skeletons in Fubara's closet that he had to adhere with the resolution as fast as possible?
Well, thank you very much. If we recollect, the elections in Rivers State, the results that came out were about the worst and the most criminally induced results of all the elections in Nigeria. After the elections, even on the INEC portal, it was clearly stated that it was the Labour Party that emerged victorious in Rivers State.
Okay.
There was so much mutilation of results. There was brigandage. The then governor and current minister of the FCT, Wike, was seen patrolling the state in convoys of military vehicles. So what transpired in Rivers was pure brigandage during the elections. And that was what brought forth this Mr. Fubara character. A man who knows that maybe he shouldn't even be occupying the position of governor. So the issue of Rivers, I don't even think Nigerians should be discussing it with regard to legality and constitutionality.
Okay.
Because it's a state that is neck deep. I mean, not the state itself or its people, but the crop of rulers that were turned out from that state in the last elections epitomizes the criminality that INEC perpetrated across Nigeria during the last elections. Why I have to give this foundation is this. When Mr. Fubara and his gang, because I'll call them gang, when they went to Aso Rock to discuss with Mr. President, and Mr. President ventured into a coup. What is a coup? A coup is when you try to get into power without constitutional means.
Okay.
Virtually read out a coup to them and they accepted.
Okay.
What was the coup? The coup was that the 25 members of the Rivers State House of Assembly who had become to another political party, which by constitutional means they have lost their seats in the Rivers State House of Assembly, that they should be brought back.
Okay.
There is no constitutional provisions for bringing back such characters.
All right.
So bringing them back by fiat was a coup to the system.
All right.
So if the governor can agree or acquiesce to such criminality, despite it's coming from the presidency, whatever he does thereafter is on his own. Even the people of Rivers State came out in their numbers to say enough of this nonsense, that we are behind you and firm. But I guess Mr. Fubara knows the kind of strength he's carrying. That's why he must kowtow to illegality emanating from Aso Rock.
Okay.
You can only know what he's going through if you are in Mr. Fubara's shoes. But I perceive that he knows the criminal route through which he entered the government house in Rivers State, and he understands that there is still a waiting Supreme Court judgment that has to be delivered on his matter, and he does not want to lose out fully. But unfortunately for this man, I believe that he will still be shocked by the Supreme Court.
Okay.
He will do what needs to be done, and he will be kicked out of government to allow a perfect crime to be committed. But he's playing along, hoping that he can stay till after the Supreme Court judgment, then he will turn around and show his true colors.
Okay,
but I'm sure the people he's dealing with will not be that stupid.
But
They'll
do you,
make sure that it's
do
truncated
you
before then.
believe ultimately that that's what's taking place? The fact that he's waiting for the Supreme Court ruling or the Supreme Court judgment before he shows his true colors. He's trying to adhere to everything before, the Supreme Court, waiting for the Supreme Court ruling before he eventually decides to act autonomously without someone that is being controlled from any quarter.
Yes. You see, I have always, I've severally opined, I have been of the opinion that perhaps he acted too much in a haste by trying to shrug off his paymaster and his boss, Mr. Wike, who imposed the Council of River State. Previous governors who had been imposed on states, such as the governors that were imposed by Oji Zokalo in Imo and Abia State, and that is respectively Mr. Ike Hakim for Imo State and T.A. Oji in Abia. These two bureaucrats who were imposed on those states by Oji Zokalo waited till after the Supreme Court had made its decision before showing their true colors. But in his haste, Mr. Fubara went a war, denied his paymaster, and then he's going to suffer the consequences. But it's very, very unfortunate that we are discussing criminality with governance in our country, in a country that should be run under democratic means. So you have rascal elements who have no government now doing whatsoever, even if it's unconstitutional, to remain in government. So what Mr. Fubara is doing currently is doing the unconstitutional part, and he will reap the consequences. He has actually handed over. He has given himself an impeachment notice by virtue of what he has already done. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes one of the first governors that have been impeached under this dispensation.
I was expecting Fubara to have written that those who have declared their seat vacant, written to the court and declaring them that those who have declared their seat vacant, they have breached the Constitution. But they didn't go through the Constitution. He decided. Oh, go ahead. What did you want to say?
No, the 25 members of the House that they come from APC to PDP from PDP to APC constitutionally under Section 109, subsection 1G of the Nigerian Constitution, made their seats vacant. Nobody needs to declare it. By themselves, by that act of jumping from one party to the other, they have declared their seats vacant. So for Mr. Fubara to accept the presidential peacemaking effort or whatever it is that brought those characters back into River State House, it's quite unfortunate. That even the speaker was recognized by his court as the Speaker of the House, resigned his position and opted to become Chief of Staff. It's also a compounding of the criminality that's going on in River State. So River State will be a very special case in this instance. Because now you have a governor who has distanced himself from the people. Because I recollect when this crisis started, even elder statesmen from across the John nation, including Edwin Clark, and there are people like Ankyo Briggs, they came out fully to support Fubara just to ensure that Wike does not continue to reap the state's boss. But Fubara, because of how he came into office, is now turning on these people. So he will find himself that he will be like a leper.
All right.
He will be very, very lonely. He will be between the government in Abuja and the people. So I wonder what is motivating to do what he's doing. But I'm sure in the next couple of weeks, when the Supreme Court gives its judgment, we will know what will happen to Mr. Fubara. But it's a very unfortunate testament on our democratic process.
Thank you, Barrister Eze. Like you said, let's see how the Supreme Court goes about it. But I know that he has been given broadcasts, giving messages to his people, trying to assure them that he has the spine to be in charge as a governor of River State, and that he is not a puppet by any puppet master. I think he's been trying to emphasize, buttress that with a couple of speeches that he has been, organizing recently in reaction to a lot of people concerning how he was quick to, adhere to the resolution that they, resolved to work with in Abuja. But finally, before you go, would you ask the federal government to include CSU as an institution that their certification should be banned? Would you also advise that, just like Atiku Abubakar is reacting and saying that the president and his administration is being selective and deceptive, would you advise that Chicago State University should also be included amongst international institutions that should be banned because apparently they award or there are supposedly forged documents from that institution?
No, I mean, I wouldn't advise that because, I'm sure what transpired in Chicago State University was the enormous funds that was brought in to influence the process there. Okay. And I believe that they should take up each case as it comes and then address it and not a blanket ban. Because I'm sure some Nigerians, some other people went to that school and they did their best, they studied hard, but some others I know just printed certificates and submitted to INEC.
So you're discountenancing what the Atiku camp is saying. You're saying that no, what they are suggesting by saying that CSE should be added is completely wrong because there are others who have, actually gotten certifications from that institution.
No, the issue is we know that Mr. Bola Tinubu submitted a fake result to INEC, a fake certificate to INEC, but not that all certificates from Chicago State University are fake. Okay. It's a very old established university, so we should be very careful in blanket bans because it becomes very vindictive. The issue is Mr. Tinubu's own was fake, not the entire certificate from Chicago State University. All
right, Barrister Ezeluche, thank you so much for taking your time to share and give us your perspective on this issue in the World News at 6. Once again, Happy New Year to you.
Thank you very much for having me on board.
All right, thank you. Now, Hamas says its deputy head, Saleh al-Nouri, has been killed in a blast in Beirut. He is said to have been among 4 people killed in an explosion of Hamas's office in Dahir, one of Lebanese capital's southern suburbs. Al-Aruri was a deputy head of Hamas's political bureau and known to be deeply involved in its military affairs. Elsewhere, the Palestinian Red Crescent says that 5 people have been killed and 3 injured in Israeli bombing on its headquarters in Khan Yunis in South Gaza. Intense fighting has continued right in there in the territory even as Israel announced plans to pull back some combat troops. Meanwhile, the Israeli military says its troops have killed dozens of Palestinian fighters in Jabalia in the north and targeted others in Gaza City and coastal areas. At least 1,200 people were killed when Hamas militants attacked Israel on the 7th of October 2023 and about 240 others were taken hostage. To wrap up the world news at 6, here again are the top stories. You heard that Ondo PDP chairman has been suspended over anti-party activities. Rivers State Governor Fubara opens up on Speaker's resignation. Governor Fubara appoints ex-Speaker Ehie as Chief of Staff. Atiku's camp reacts after Benin, Togo's certificate revocation. And Hamas has disclosed that its deputy leader has been killed in a blast in Lebanon capital, Beirut. That's a wrap on the world news at 6. My name is Esther Mwachuku. Kindly join us for an extensive political analysis and conversation on at VOP Politics on at VOP TV Live, right on YouTube at VOP TV Live. That's Voice of the People Television at VOP TV Live at 7 o'clock precisely, where we give you a breakdown, extensive breakdown and analysis on political issues with intelligent and well-experienced analysts giving us your own perception to these issues. Once again, Happy New Year to you. Up next is the Evening Rush with Precious.